Hey everybody, how you going? My name is Mitch Cam. We're going to have a look at a Svelte tutorial today. We're going to look at reactivity, and what that means to me is the user's interacting with something on the page. We're able to set some variables in our Svelte code, and then that variable, based on how it's been set, is able to update what the user sees on the web page. So we're going to go through just two examples today to work through. One of them is going to be just a button that we click, that each time we click it, it cycles through a different background image. And we'll jump to the second project file. And the second project file is a button that we can click that will hide and show a sidebar. We're not going to have any animations on that yet. We're just going to look at the basics of how to show it and hide it each time we click the button. Okay, so we'll jump in and have a look at that first example, the cycling of the background images. Okay, so what we'll really quickly do, we'll just run through chucking some HTML on the page, just so we've got something to work with. So the first thing, it's going to be in Bootstrap, just so it looks beautiful. I'm going to have a surrounding div, relative, full height of the window. We'll pop a div in there with a background image. The one.jpg is going to be important for how we get this to work a little bit later, but just background cover, center. And then here's the button that we're going to pop on there that is going to just be the cycle background button, and a little bit of styling. So it goes smack bang in the middle of the page with position absolute, top 50, left 50, just so we've got a nice big button center of page. Okay, cool. So that's just the HTML, really quick run through. Now we'll do some Svelte and connect that button up and cycle some background images. Okay, so there's three parts to this that we need for it to work in total. We're going to need to create a variable that's going to be responsible for holding what the current picture we'd like in the background to be. We're going to need a function that is responsible for taking that variable and bumping it up by one to the next picture so that it changes the picture in the background. And then lastly, the third thing is we're going to need to, on the button, when we click it, create a onClick event that will call that function to change that picture. So let's get started with creating that variable. So let's go. So I've just got a show background variable that will hold 0 as the value. Why that will work is our pictures that we've got in this public folder here are 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we'll do is we'll just keep bumping that show background up by 1 each time, which will change which picture we're showing. So 0 will show nothing, then 1 and 2 and 3 and so on will show each next picture. So let's create a function that will up that show background count. So we'll put it into a variable. So we're putting a function inside of a variable. And what we want to do, we want to say, okay, if that background, we've only got 4 images here. So if that's getting to the 5th number, we need to reset that back to 0. So let's go. If show background is less than 4, we'll keep on bumping it up. So show background is equal to show background plus 1. But we only do that when it's less than 4, and we'll put an else. You can put your else's on this line. I prefer to have it on a new line. If else, show background should get set back to 0. So that will start it again. So if the show background is greater than 4, it's hit number 5, which we don't have a file for. We'll just dump it back to 0 again. I'm going to jump in with a little fun extracurricular one for everyone out there who wants a little bit more homework. You can do a shorthand version of function like this. So you can drop the word and add this arrow syntax there to make it a little bit cleaner. I personally prefer to see the word function written there so that my brain looks and it goes, that's a function. But up to you. I think the more common approach is to use the arrow syntax, just because it looks a little bit cleaner, but that's not my preference at the moment. But I'll be continuing to use function. Okay, so now we've got the variable set up. We've got the background update function ready to go. What we need to do is we need to call that update background function when we click the cycle background button, because it does nothing at the moment. So that is this over here. So on click equals, what do we want to do when we, whoa, look at all that, holy moly. On click, what do we want to do? We want to run this puppy over here. So when we on click, update background is going to run, and it's going to bump that number up here. But we can't see anything. So let's pop a console log to have a look at what's happening in the background. We'll go to full screen here and have a look at the console. And there we go. So that's our number bumped up, and we get to 4, and we want it to go back to 0 again. So that's working as expected, which is good. Okay, so that looks like it's working so far. The next thing to do is, instead of just only having 1 here, what we want in our HTML content, and this is the reactivity part of Svelte, is we want, when that show background variable updates, we want that to be updated in our HTML now. So super simple. This is the magic of Svelte. All you need to do is curly brackets, pop in your variable. Anytime that variable changes now, your page is going to change to reflect that. So now if we click the cycle background, we're going to get each new picture roll through, and that's because the show background number is changing, which is saying, hey, reference a different .jpeg file, and we get a new background when we click. I'm going to do one more extra fun thing and go, if show background is greater than 0, then we'll show that div. Otherwise, we don't need to see the div because there's no file for, there's no file named 0. So let's just not show that entire div, so we don't get any errors. So that's looking a little bit cleaner now. Beautiful. That's the first lesson. Just to recap, we've just basically done a bit of infrastructure to set up in the background, essentially changing a variable. And then that variable, we can pop it in curly brackets inside of our HTML. And anytime that variable changes up in our code, it just magically changes in the HTML in real time for us. So that's the reactivity magic of Svelte. Let's jump into the next lesson and have a look at doing something similar, but with a sidebar coming across.